Hey guys, and welcome to the video. We're going to be discussing Ahsoka, the new Star Wars show streaming on Disney Plus, and its poor viewership numbers. So grab your lightsabers as we force push our way into this Star Wars news. But before we get started, make sure you hit that subscribe button, hit that like button, and stay up to date with all the movie and streaming news we have going on around here. So guys, we're going to take a look at this article from Bounding into Comics. Ahsoka has abysmal viewership, one of the worst Star Wars Disney Plus premieres since The Mandalorian Season 1. The newly released Ahsoka series reportedly had one of the worst Disney Plus premieres for a Star Wars series since The Mandalorian Season 1. Samba TV recently shared their data, claiming that only 1.2 million US households tuned into Ahsoka in its first 6 days since release. The data analysis group reported on X, the latest new Star Wars series, Ahsoka, finally hit screens with 1.2 million US households watching over the first 6 days. This is similar to the viewership of Andor's premiere season, and slightly lower than The Mandalorian's third season premiere over its first 6 days. So here's the tweet here from Samba TV showing 1.2 million US households that watched the premiere episode of Ahsoka in its first 6 days. As noted by Samba TV, this is lower than their premiere numbers for The Mandalorian Season 3. They reported back in March that The Mandalorian Season 3 premiere drew in 1.6 million US households. So yeah, it looks like the premiere to The Mandalorian has achieved more views from US households than the premiere episode of Ahsoka, which isn't too good because you obviously want those viewership numbers to go up for each season that you put out of different shows. And yeah, maybe it's a testament to the fact that people are a little bit fed up with Disney's approach to making Star Wars at the moment. Who knows? But let's keep going, guys, and see what else it has to say. So as we see here, The Mandalorian's third season is off to a strong start, leading this week's Samba TV Weekly Wrap as #1 stream program of the week. Had 1.6 million US households watch the season 3 premiere of The Mandalorian on Disney Plus. So, looking back at Obi-Wan Kenobi, Samba TV reported the series had been viewed 2.14 million US households in its first 4 days of streaming on Disney Plus. Interestingly, they also reported that the best, The Mandalorian Season 2 premiere, which brought in 2.08 million US households in its first 4 days, as well as the Book of Boba Fett, it says Boba Fett, as well as Boba Fett, which brought in 1.5 million for its premiere. So we can see here 2.14 million US households watched the premiere of Obi-Wan Kenobi on Disney Plus in the first 4 days. While the Book of Boba Fett might have only brought in 1.5 million US households in 4 days, Samba TV reported it brought in 1.7 million in its first 5 days in January 2022. They posted on Instagram 1.7 million US households watched the series premiere of Book of Boba Fett on Disney Plus in its first 5 days of streaming. And we can see the post here, 1.7 US households watched the premiere of Book of Boba Fett during its first 5 days of streaming. As noted above, Samba TV reported that The Mandalorian Season 2 brought in 2.08 million US households in its first 4 days. The data firm previously reported in November 2020 that The Mandalorian Season 2 premiere had raked in 1.04 million US households, albeit they did not provide a time frame, so it's possible this data was based on the initial day it released rather than over the course of 4 days. Samba TV wrote on Instagram, quote, "Is the force strong with Star Wars fans watching The Mandalorian? Season 2 premiere had 1.04 US... Mandalorian Season 2 premiere had 1.04 million US households tune in, up 73% compared to 2019's Season 1 premiere." Yeah, so that was a testament to how good the first season of The Mandalorian was. The Mandalorian is the best thing that they've put out of Star Wars, I would say. Possibly Andor. I know a lot of people like Andor, but I would say that The Mandalorian Season 1 is probably the best thing that they've put out of Star Wars on streaming so far, in my opinion. And the fact that Season 2 premiere was up by 73% compared to the Season 1 just goes to show how much people loved the first season of The Mandalorian. It was a very good show. I might have to go back and watch it sometime, actually. The decline in viewership should not be a surprise to anyone who has been following the course of Star Wars over the past few years. Since the Walt Disney Company purchased Lucasfilm and Star Wars from George Lucas, nearly every metric has declined. Well, yeah, there's a lot of people that are very, very unhappy with what they've done with Star Wars on streaming and obviously the episodic movies. The last Star Wars movie was really, really universally hated by most fans. Rise of Skywalker was just, in my opinion, it was so bad. It seems like the last three movies, they didn't know what they were doing. It doesn't seem like there was any kind of direction. It was kind of all over the place. the MacGuffins they used and plot holes in the movie didn't make sense. They brought back the Emperor, and what they did with Kylo Ren as well. They kind of, he was such a great character, and they underutilized him in my opinion. But yeah, there were so many people who really didn't like The Rise of Skywalker. Rey became a Skywalker. Like, what the hell was that all about? And yeah, I don't know with that. I'm kind of the same. I used to be so excited about new Star Wars stuff, and now when I hear a new Star Wars streaming show coming out, I'm just like, meh, I'll get to it when I want to get to it. Rather, like, when they first started doing them, I was kind of like, yeah, let's go and watch it on the first day. And now I'm just like, yeah, I'll get to it whenever I get to it, And that's kind of a testament to how I've kind of fallen off of Star Wars a little bit. And I think a lot of you guys would probably be the same. So, where are we? Well, The Force Awakens did monster box office numbers to the tune of 2.064 billion. Yeah, that made a lot of money because that was the first, obviously, that was the first movie in the last trilogy. So, Star Wars hadn't been around for a long time. That was the first movie in a while. So, a lot of people went to watch it. Subsequent films in the trilogy declined significantly. The Last Jedi only brought in 1.3 billion. The Rise of Skywalker closed out Disney's sequel trilogy with 1.072. So yeah, every subsequent film that came out, it was doing less and less money because people were just getting, more and more fed up with what they were doing with it. And like I said, it didn't seem to be a coherent story. A lot of things across the last 3 movies didn't really make sense. And I think people were just a little bit fed up with it. In between those films, the company actually lost money on Solo, a Star Wars story, which grossed 393.1 million globally on a 275 million production budget. Yeah, I mean, it's such a shame because the Solo movie was actually quite a nice little movie. I really, really enjoyed Solo. But like, nobody was asking for it. Nobody understood why they were making it. And like these numbers show here, like nobody went to support it or watch it. And it was just, yeah, it's a shame because it was a nice little movie. And guys, if you're watching this video and you're listening, do go and watch Solo because it is a nice little film and it's pretty good. And I think you'll enjoy it. So, with Star Wars films declining at the box office, merchandise sales began drying up as well. Diamond Select Toys president Chuck Terciaria told Rebel Scum in 2020, quote, "I know those movies, as well as 9, have their fans, and those fans might say, just never did the right products or characters or formats, and they might be correct. However, we can only go by what we know. For sure, the door is not closed to the sequel trilogy. Products, and we are working on a couple of pieces for The Rise of Skywalker right now," he added. So, when pressed on it, if the company planned to create more Rise of Skywalker products, Terciaria replied, quote, "As I mentioned before, we are working on some, but I have to ask, are you sure there is lots of demand for these very requested characters?" He added, quote, "The overall demand for busts and Star Wars products is not what it was 10 or even 5 years ago." Yeah, see, it's another comment here, guys. It's just showing that the decline in, merchandise. People, there are still the hardcore fans and there are still the casual fans of Star Wars. And Star Wars is still a massive IP. Don't get me wrong. But the casual fan like myself, like I say, instead of me getting super, super excited about new Star Wars stuff, new products and, new streaming shows and stuff, I'm just kind of like, yeah, it's awesome. And I will watch it and I will buy Star Wars merchandise. But I'm not anywhere as excited as I used to be. And that's because of the last trilogy set of movies and what they did with it. And you're kind of just like, well, it's kind of that interest, that initial interest of buying something new from Star Wars. You're just kind of like, yeah, I'll get to it, Sorry if I'm repeating myself. But yeah, that's kind of what I hope you guys understand what I'm trying to say anyway. So, Terciaria later stated, quote, "We just, as of yet, have not seen enough fans that would want to buy a bust, have the personal affection for some of those new characters that makes sense to justify going into production. But for sure, we're watching it, and perhaps as more time passes, fans' affections for those characters will grow." So, in fact, the Walt Disney Company's 2009 Q3 earnings results report even noted merchandise sales for Star Wars had declined. Quote, the increase at our consumer products business was due to the growth at our merchandise licensing and retail businesses. Growth at the merchandise licensing was primarily due to higher revenue from merchandise based on Toy Story, partially offset by a decrease from Star Wars merchandise. So yeah, keeps declining, guys, keeps declining. Jedi Temple Archive even reported back in 2018 that the entire Star Wars brand had been in decline since 2016, just a year after The Force Awakens. Star Wars merchandise sales have been declining ever since October 2016. Remember that Disney's fiscal year ends in September? But not only merchandise seems to be affected, since Star Wars book sales and comic book sales are also down, So Star Wars as a whole seems to be in decline at the moment. Yeah, like I keep saying, guys, I mean, I don't know what else to say about this, but it's just the fact that, you know, people are just not happy with what Disney seems to have done with Star Wars, and people would like to see another company try a Star Wars movie. Obviously, it's not going to happen because Disney owns Star Wars, I know. But it's just, you know, if you lose confidence in Star Wars itself. I mean, you've got to do something to get those fans back on board, you know, to build the confidence back in the brand of Star Wars. Just to go off on a tangent, they need to do the same thing with Marvel as well. The latest phase of Marvel, people have lost confidence because the latest phase has been all over the place, no coherent story, there's no heroes at the forefront, and people seem a bit disenfranchised with both Star Wars and Marvel at the moment. So Disney is quite on the decline at the moment, and they've got to do something quick to grab the fans back, I think. Not only is Star Wars in decline, but the Walt Disney Company as a whole is in decline, which is what I was just saying, guys. The company reported in the past 2 earnings reports that they've lost a total of 600,000 plus Disney Plus subscribers in the United States and Canada. So in their most recent report, Disney Plus subscribers in the United States and Canada declined to 46 million as of July 2023. That was a loss of 300,000 subscribers from April 2023, when they had 46.3 million. Before that, they reported that they had 46.3 million in April 2023, but that had declined from 46.6 million as of December 2022. The last time they saw growth on Disney Plus in the United States was their Q1 2023 report. They reported that Disney Plus grew from 46.4 million to 46.6 million. So yeah, Q1 of 2023, it grew by 200,000. But yeah, people are, there's a lot of controversy over their Disney remakes, live remakes, especially with Rachel Zegler coming out and saying those comments about Snow White. Marvel's in decline, Star Wars is in decline, and the merchandise as well as the movies, it's just really, really not looking good for Disney at this point. So that also means that despite having significantly less subscribers when shows like Book of Boba Fett and Obi-Wan Kenobi premiered, they still have more viewers than Ahsoka. Clearly, the Star Wars brand being in overall decline is one of the factors why Ahsoka's premiership viewership was as low. Another reason is the quality of The Mandalorian Season 3 was not up to snuff for many viewers. Yeah, a lot of people kind of had comments that they didn't really like The Mandalorian Season 3 as much as the first 2 seasons, which is a shame because, Mandalorian Season 1 and 2 is great Star Wars stuff, man. It's really, really good stuff. And, to keep that quality going, Season 3 didn't quite reach the same heights, so, people didn't like it as much. The third season had some of the worst rated episodes for the entire series on IMDb. They included a 6.4 for Chapter 22, Guns for Hire, and a 7.0 for Chapter 19, The Convert. Similar to The Last Jedi and Solo: A Star Wars Story, viewers are rejecting Ahsoka based on how poorly they reviewed The Mandalorian. It's also likely that Ahsoka is not as popular as many Star Wars fans like to think. The character originated in a much panned animated film, Star Wars The Clone Wars. She would have gone on to feature in Star Wars Clone Wars animated series, but the series primarily followed Anakin Skywalker's adventures. From there, she would cameo in Star Wars Rebels, The Mandalorian, and The Book of Boba Fett. Yeah, I have to say, as a casual fan, I never watched any of the animated Star Wars content. I'm not really an animated person, so I don't really have any idea who Ahsoka is. I've seen the first episode of the show. I thought it was okay, actually. I wasn't that turned off by it. I actually thought the first episode of Ahsoka wasn't that bad. I do plan on watching the second episode as well. But if it does decline in quality, then I'll probably jump off of it because I'm not too bothered if I finish it or not. But the first episode I didn't think was too bad. So, however, her existence after Order 66 has been heavily criticised, given she's seemingly a Jedi that should have been killed by the Emperor's anti-Jedi policies. This is another thing that we get into with Star Wars, guys. The canon is so all over the place. Some fans believe the canon happened one way, other people, the canon's the other way. And, people get mixed up with the storylines. This should have happened, this shouldn't have happened, how does this happen? And it becomes so messy. That's the problem when you have these massive IPs that have all this backstory, lore, canon, and everything, and they try and create new stuff, and you have to fit it all into this canon, make sure it all, it's very, very tricky to keep all the fans happy with that kind of stuff. So even if she wasn't gunned down by stormtroopers, Darth Vader and his Imperial forces would have hunted her and any surviving Jedi down. The series has also been heavily promoted as being a soft reboot of Timothy Zahn's Heir to the Empire trilogy, with the creator Dave Filoni replacing Luke Skywalker with Ahsoka and his various Star Wars Rebel characters. Star Wars fans have seen this play out before in The Force Awakens and saw how it turned out in The Rise of Skywalker, an utter disaster with the Emperor somehow returning and Rey upstaging Luke Skywalker. Yeah, that's a whole massive debate you can get into about Rey upstaging Luke Skywalker. I'm not going to go into it here, guys. But yeah, that's a thing that turned a lot of people off to Star Wars. So what do you make of Ahsoka's poor viewership? So yeah, guys, that's just, a bit of the backstory of what's going on with the latest Disney Plus streaming show, Star Wars streaming show, I should say. And it looks like Ahsoka's viewership numbers are quite low when you compare it to their other shows. So what do you guys think about this? Jump into the comment section. Let me know. Have you watched Ahsoka? What did you think of it so far? Are you surprised at these numbers, or are you not really bothered with Star Wars anymore? I'd love to know what you think about this whole thing, guys. Thank you for watching, and I will see you soon.